Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Wednesday the 13th of February. So looking at the euro dollar first, and well, we've bullish engulfing bar from yesterday. Quite a reversal there. We had a bit of a short term sort of signal in terms of it reversing, and it had a solid reversal yesterday. Bullish engulfing today. Where to? Well, we've run into the daily 8 at the moment. Will that be the end of things? Well, there is a bit of divergence sitting there. I've come to the owl is here. A bit of divergence sitting across this, which is sort of triggered and looks like it could push towards that daily pivot. From there, we'll have to wait and see. I'm sort of wondering whether we are in a phase of the potential for more upside potential here. The problem we have, of course, is the amount of retail clients that are long at the moment, which sits around, well, actually it's dropped a little bit back down to 70%, but it was higher than that for a good part of yesterday. And you do wonder when it's that high whether the market would just put another little squeeze on the moves there before it pushes up, but heading in some ways towards its weekly pivot. I was sort of eyeing that up yesterday in terms of its potential, and now we'll see how it reacts to its daily pivot if it gets that far down. So as I say, potential for upside. The softer side at the moment is near-term movement is a little bit soft, and it may just sort of work that little divergence off there. In doing so, if it breaks that daily pivot, well, I'd be bearish again. The pound looks a little bit stronger. It's didn't have such a solid day in terms of the candle size compared to the previous day, but it's nevertheless had a solid day yesterday. It's pushed back up to its monthly pivot. It's having a reaction to the underside of that at the moment. It too gave us the sort of signals that it may be sort of reversing from where it was. A bit of divergence here on the 4 hourlies sort of occurred, and then well, it's been sort of working its way up just into that 4 hourly 34 at the moment. It's got a daily pivot quite well below it, which could well become a target. There was no divergence across this hourly time frame here. Let's just check on the RSI. Not really. It pitched higher with the high, possibly not the strongest, but we'll see. But there is the potential it could bounce this morning. I mean, if it gets back as far as its pivot, well, it subject to how it sits on that, and if it gives some sort of reversal, I'd potentially well, I'd certainly be looking for the long potential on that move. We just need to watch post 8 o'clock how that shapes up, but it's certainly done quite a few things that I was expecting yesterday, so it's just done it overnight instead of waiting for me today. Dollar yen still, from a daily point of view here, pushing upwards. Looks like it could continue in that mode at the moment. There is a bit of divergence on the 4 hourly here, that said, but it's still pushing upwards at the moment. So unless we see a break of the 110.33 area, I think that's probably got more upside potential there. Yesterday never managed to get back to its pivot. I mean, it's sort of air kissed its pivot this morning as it wipes itself past. So I would be wary of that. I mean, there's potential a bit of 60-minute divergence likely to occur there. We'll see if it makes a double top. But I say potential. Yeah, it looks like it made it. But all the same, my preference is to look for long opportunities on this, and which would be waiting for retracements and not trying to trade it the opposite way. So it still looks like it's got more upside. Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar recovering, maybe a little bit helped by the New Zealand dollar data that came out. It's pushed up towards its weekly pivot. In fact, it looks like it's hit the weekly pivot. So look, yep, just a smidgen off and just reacting to that at the moment. Again, there's sort of looks like there was possible signs yesterday, but it just a slow old move during the daytimes, as it often does. It's can be very, very slow. Rolling over at the moment, got potential, has got daily pivot right below there. If it was to come right away back for that, it might change the pattern. Well, will change the pattern of it and may not look quite so healthy unless it bounces quite solidly, quite quickly. Canadian dollar, Let's go out to the bigger picture here, and well, it's starting to get consolidate and solidify his position here. I keep on saying it's the slightly stronger of the pairings currencies against the US pairing, and any weakness in the dollar, I would expect it to be shown in the Canadian dollar perhaps a little bit more. Now, we saw a good solid move down again yesterday, and it really did go in the end. Was sort of looking at it in the earlier stage, but so often as it does, it can just sort of chop along. But yesterday it just worked its way all the way down. Actually, yesterday, good solid move down to that weekly pivot. Has got a daily pivot above. Now, again, if you were looking to get into some sort of move on this and was waiting for a retracement, maybe the well, possibly 21, but the 34 or the pivot there, the 50, somewhere in that region, if they were to align, maybe a decent shorting point if you're looking to capture a bit more of the downside potential. Okay, that's nearly it. Actually, New Zealand dollar, a bit on that as we had some news overnight. The Bank of the Royal Reserve Bank of New Zealand governor suggested that there was no need for a rate cut at the moment, and they were looking more solidly at maybe just keeping the rate at the same level for a lot longer. So as opposed to cutting it, but there is still the scope to cut it, but that cheered the markets up anyway there, so not a lot more. I mean, solid old move. It might pull back a little bit on there, as there's nothing significantly coming out of that unless there was a lot of bearish people sitting there, but it's it may be enough to give it a bit more of a kicker at some point, maybe a decent retrace, maybe a buying opportunity in there. Okay, that's pretty much it. News-wise today, we do have some inflation data out later. We've got inflation for the UK at 9:30, expected to come in at around about 1.9. The US data is due in at 1:30. So 9:30, 1:30 for inflation. Looking at the core data there for the US, expected to come in at 0.2. So for the month-on-month. So we'll see how that runs, but the UK data is looked at year-on-year more so, and that's running at 1.9 at the moment. 2 is the target. If it drops anything lower, it sort of takes the heat off interest rate increases. If it's rising, obviously it puts more heat potentially on interest rate increases. Right, that's pretty much it for me. Have a great one. Bye for now.